Uh-huh. I just feel like I've been around the block, ripping up fantasy stock, working around the clock. Look at the view from the top. Researching rookies a lot? No, I just be listening to pods, yeah. One in particular, I'm just a messenger, let me just pass on the rock. Browning, Brunning, Bruning, pronouncing ain't what he's doing. What he's doing is not losing, but infusing you with new things. And there's Dennis the Bennett, yeah. The man is a menace, yeah. Building a dynasty, some of the finest things. Promise you, you won't regret it. Sly as a fox, cultured in pop. Give him his props. Here is a thought, here is a box. And you cannot compare them at all, so don't even try. Careful with the news, but when you use a take, I take up Tony Fire. I mean Dyer, because anyone else is a huge mistake. Whoa, fantasy round table, fantasy round table. Yeah. Fantasy round table, come take a look at the crown, baby. Hey, fantasy round table, fantasy round table. Woo. Fantasy round table, come take a look at the crown, baby. Go.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the Fantasy Football Roundtable Podcast. Week 15 of the NFL season is in the books. We are just a couple of days away from Week 16, but before we get there, we are going to look back at a pretty interesting, some mixed results here in Week 15, and that started right on Thursday night. The Falcons came in 4-9, kind of season over. The Buccaneers came in 7-6, trying to hold on and win the NFC South. They built a 14-point lead, and the Falcons won anyway, 29-28. That was thanks in large part to Kyle Pitts, who has been good the past few weeks, but really went off Thursday. 11 receptions, 166 yards, 3 touchdowns. Probably helped the people that played him to win some playoff matchups. He's in a contract here, Dennis. Has this hot stretch, you think, opened up a world of possibilities for him?
Yeah, I mean, he has the career high in receptions and touchdowns. He's cruising towards his second 1,000-yard season. He's averaging a career high 8 targets and a career high in targets and receptions per game, but career low in yards per game. So his stuff he's doing is a little closer to the line of scrimmage. Honestly, it feels like he's headed for the franchise tag if they can't get something done. With Drake London out, he's really stepped up. But I think there's room for both of them. The real question is going to be their quarterback situation. What happens with Penix's knee? Is he basically getting both legs amputated and he done? They're going to try to ride it out with him. Cousins, he's still under contract for next year, isn't he?
Cousins?
Yeah.
So I think he signed a 4-year deal originally.
Yeah, that's what I thought. So if they were to say, you know what, we're going to throw Kirk Cousins back out there as a starter, let Michael Penix take his time, we're going to franchise tag Pitts because he doesn't want to re-sign. We got London back healthy. We still got Bijan. Maybe they can bring Tyler Algier back. I think his contract is up this year, isn't it?
Algier and Pitts are both up. And you know what? I'm not sure that they bring either of them back. And I am, like you, I think Cousins is the guy because they're locked into that enormous contract. And it's been pretty widely reported that Penix is not going to be able to play next year. I don't know what to make of the Falcons. I'm really curious what happens to Raheem Morris. Because it has not been impressive on either side of the ball, but they have moments like in this game, and they played the Buccaneers really tough week 1 where you're like, hey, maybe there's a chance, but it has not looked good. Speaking of not looking good, Todd Bowles really laid into his team after this one. The Buccaneers went from a team that I thought was frisky and might be a real challenger in the NFC to a team that I'm not even sure they're going to make the playoffs despite being in a pretty horrendous division. They don't seem to do anything well on offense or defense lately. What's wrong with the Bucs?
So I think that the offense is capable. They've had injuries with Evans and with Bucky Irving, and now I think they're trying to piece it all back together. I think there is a little bit of, they want to reward Sean Tucker for how well he played in Irving's stead. And Jalen McMillan is also back. And so now you've got just a whole bunch of guys. They concentrated pretty well on Evans and Ibuka in the passing game against Atlanta, which makes sense. And Godwin was, I think, third on the team in targets with 5. So if you go there, the passing game is good. The real issue has been the defense is falling apart since the bye week. They've been giving up. So they've lost 5 of 6. And in those 5 losses, they've averaged 31.8 points per game on the defensive side of the ball. Prior to the bye week, the defense was only giving up 22.4 points. So they have to get that right. And to be fair, Todd Bowles can say, hey, y'all got to get your crap together. But he was able to get head coaching jobs because of how good he was on the defensive side of the ball. So, hey, buddy, stick your nose in there and get it fixed.
Next up, the Chicago Bears, host to the Cleveland Browns, got the 31-3 victory. Dennis, it's been a rough few years for Kevin Stefanski. Feels like the bloom has kind of come off the rose. We thought maybe he was safe these last couple of years because of Deshaun Watson, but there's been some real kind of negative energy. Do you think that he is for sure back in 2026?
I wouldn't go so far as to say for sure. I think if he wants to be, I think he'll be back. He's 2 years into a 4-year extension, him and Andrew Berry both. They're still saddled with the Deshaun Watson contract. And I think Haslam is taking responsibility for that by saying, look, I know you've been wearing this albatross for 3 seasons now. And, the money tied up in it has handcuffed you, and the players were not able to get. So it feels like Stefanski almost is owed an opportunity to see what he can do without that ginormous contract hanging over his head that limits, a contract for a guy that isn't playing.
Yeah.
So there's a ton of money tied up. The defense is phenomenal. They have their moments where they, crumble a little bit, but when they're on the field all the time because the offense isn't doing anything, it's easy for the defense to kind of get run down. I like him to be back if he wants. I would not be surprised at all if there was a mutual parting of the ways, though.
Meanwhile, for Chicago, probably the toughest beat for those people who were in fantasy was Rome Odunze declared active and then moments before kickoff ruled out, re-aggravated the injury. Now they're talking about it could linger for a longer time, or he may miss a significant chunk of the rest of the season. Should we worry about Rome Odunze?
Well, for this season, yeah, I think there's definitely cause for concern. A couple of the Twitter fantasy football doctors are mentioning, hey, stress fracture, going to need surgery in the offseason. I'm not, I guess I'm not 100% sure even what the injury is. Just know it's a foot. Long term, I'm not overly concerned. Let him take the offseason, get his foot healthy, whether that's surgery or rehab, whatever it is that he needs to get it taken care of. It's good for DJ Moore. He's maybe playable again.
I have trouble trusting any of the Chicago pass catchers just because it seems so erratic. But
it's very it's a real whack-a-mole.
The Los Angeles Chargers went to Kansas City and swept the Chiefs, getting a 16-13 victory. As the Chargers are now quietly 10-4, we keep thinking, with the injuries to the tackle and the fact that they never really seem to impress all that much, that they're going to lose, but they just keep on chugging. How serious are you taking them as contenders?
I would rather win ugly than lose pretty any day of the week. They've got quite a stretch to finish the season. They're up against Dallas this next week, which has a very explosive offense. The defense is playing better since that myriad of moves Jerry Jones did. Houston, 2 weeks from now, they're going up against the number one defense in the league. That pass rush against those second and third string tackles is going to put Justin Herbert to the test for sure. And then they close it out against Denver. It's a divisional game on the road against the number 3 defense in the league. So they don't have a cakewalk to close out the season. They could finish 11-6, 10-7. They may not win another game. I feel like they can get Dallas. Houston can be inconsistent on offense, and so that feels closer to a coin flip. Denver, I think, may be the bigger issue. Denver can I think do some stuff on offense, and a division game always carries a little bit more weight. But they've got a tough stretch to close the season.
The Chiefs, meanwhile, fall to 6-8. They've been eliminated from the playoffs. Patrick Mahomes tore his ACL and MCL, done for this year, and probably a good chunk to start next year. There have been a lot of discussions now about what potentially happens with the Chiefs. It's been floated out there whether Andy Reid might think about retiring. And that's also a big question when it comes to Travis Kelce. We were kind of on the fence about whether he was coming back this year. He has seemed like he's lost a little enthusiasm maybe for the game. Do you think he's back in 2026?
It felt like he was all but gone, to be honest. And now you can easily paint the scenario where Mahomes and Kelce and Andy Reid all are like, look, we don't want to go out that way. We can't finish, losing, missing the playoffs for the first time in forever. And so it's easy to see a scenario where they come back and try to right the ship. That being said, we've also seen it where, the coach and some key players have all stayed a couple seasons too long, and they try to make that Cinderella comeback after a bad season, and it don't get better. So, he's got a media career waiting for him. He's got, probably pending nuptials with one of the most famous people in the world currently. And it comes down to whether or not he can, he's going to sit down with Jason and be like, do you regret it? What would you do differently? And I think if you listen to their podcast after the season ends, over the next, those few months, you'll hear them talk about it. And it may be a very public debate with himself about whether or not he comes back.
Yeah.
But let's not forget, he's tight end 3 on the year. It's not like he's cratered.
I think the Chiefs are going to end up having to go into a rebuild of some kind because their problems are too big to fix in one off season. I actually do think he is going to retire. I would not be shocked if Andy Reid retires too. The Buffalo Bills went to New England.
He's
68.
Okay.
So the Buffalo Bills went to New England, got the 35-31 victory. Dennis, the last couple of weeks when the Bills have needed a pass catcher to step up, that guy seems to be Dawson Knox. He came through again this week with a couple of big touchdowns. Are you starting to trust him more for fantasy?
So, you know who Dawson Knox is? Dawson Knox was Michael Mayer before Michael Mayer was cool. Knox came in. He was a good, not an elite, super athletic talent, But in 2021, he was tight end 11. 2022, he was tight end 14. In 2023, they drafted Dalton Kincaid, and Knox has become an afterthought. But he's still a good player. He's like we talk about, wouldn't it be great to see Tyler Algier go somewhere where he can be the guy? We've seen him put up 1,000-yard season, and then they drafted Bijan. We've seen Dawson Knox be a top 12 tight end, and then they brought in Dalton Kincaid. And so it's hard to trust anybody in Buffalo. They don't have a bona fide wide receiver one. They're piecing that together. They're relying on Josh Allen to elevate everybody that's not named James Cook on that offense. And he's frankly doing it, but
meanwhile, Patriots, they slipped to 11-3. They're still a pretty good team, but they're another team that has a just hard to figure pass offense. What do you make of the Patriots pass offense?
You know what the Patriots pass offense could use? It could use like 2022 vintage Stephon Diggs, 1,500 yards, that guy. That's who they could use.
Diggs is another guy that's been almost unplayable. He's had 5 or fewer points each of the last 4 weeks.
Yeah, he's and here's the wild part about the New England passing offense. You see Kayshon Boutte go out and make these phenomenal plays, and it's like, what's this guy got to do to earn targets from you? I mean, feature him. He's not CeeDee Lamb. He's not Nico Collins. But damn it, man, he's not Joshua Palmer either. Give him 6, 7, 8 targets a game. Let him be your 1B. And until you get a 1A, let him be your 1A. He's good against pressure. He can go up and fight for the ball. That diving catch he made this weekend, it was beautiful. And he does shit like that, it seems, every week. He'll make a play like that, and then they're like, no, we're not going to throw you the ball no more. Good job, buddy. It's crazy. Kyle Williams has popped off a couple times, made a couple plays. Diggs, there's just no real consistency left in his game. It feels like Hunter Henry's probably the most reliable guy, and even then he can run hot and cold, especially when you have TreVeyon Henderson out of the blue busting long touchdown runs. But hell, they folded and lost the game after being up big.
Yeah, 21-0.
Yeah, it was wild. Now, I've got a team that's rebuilding, and I'll be goddamned if I didn't get the 6th seed. And I'll be damned if I wasn't the high scorer in the 2 playoff games this week and I advanced in the playoffs. I am the worst at rebuilding. And part of it was TreVeyon Henderson.
I had a team that started 0-7, won 7 straight, and got the 6th seed despite myself, and also won in advance. And I'm like, well, hey. The Washington Commanders went to New York and surprisingly got the 29-21 victory. Chris Rodriguez got ruled out. So good old Bill Krosky-Merritt actually got some volume, and he did something with it. 18 carries, 96 yards, and a touchdown. He was good enough in the preseason that they moved on from Brian Robinson, but he's been kind of the forgotten man a little bit in the middle of the season. Now a good performance. He was a very low draft pick. What do you think his future is for Dynasty?
I think for Dynasty, he's a better prospect than Rodriguez. And I get it. That's a pretty low bar.
I don't even see a bar.
I don't think he's a special back by any means. He had a good game against the Giants, 96 yards and a touchdown, didn't catch any passes. So Washington is figuring out their offense. They don't. It's wild that they got rid of Robinson because he was clearly the best running back on the team, and they were like, "Yeah, we think we can do as good," and then you didn't. Now, can Krosky-Merritt be serviceable? Sure, I think he can be serviceable. I think ending up on a team that has a 3-back rotation like he's on now isn't good for anybody in fantasy because the only if you were playing him this week, you were literally like, you know what? Fuck it. I got to put somebody there.
Speaking of effort, we got to put somebody there. Let's talk about the Giants. You know, you would like on paper maybe to think that they have some there. They're only 2-12. There was some energy when Jackson Dart came in, but his style of play makes me worried about his long-term future. Scadaboo and Malik Neighbors can be coming back off of pretty brutal injuries. They've kind of developed the tight end. What do you make of this team for Dynasty, and do you think they'll be more successful if they're all back together next year?
Yeah, I think if they can bring Wan'Dale back, before Neighbors got hurt, Wan'Dale and Neighbors were coexisting peacefully. I think Theo Johnson has come on and earned the right to be the starting tight end. I don't know that he'll earn super high volume, but I think he can be a tight end one on a relatively week-to-week basis more often than not. Dart has to not be the Cam Scadaboo of quarterbacks. I think if he can get past that, you know, because when he's playing like that, he ends up missing time. And what he needs to work on is really developing in the NFL offense and learning how to, you know, getting better at getting all the way through his progressions and making the right read and the right throw, making sure his accuracy is on point. And it's great that he's mobile, but let's be smart with that mobility and not put your head in it. They've got a nice, you know, if they could keep Tyrone Tracy makes a great compliment to Scadaboo. I don't know what that means for Devin Singletary. I suppose being New York's RB3 is a better job than flipping burgers.
Maybe. Next up, the Eagles hosted the Raiders, got the 31-0 victory. Raiders fall to 2-12. Another guy that it's fair to wonder, do you think Pete Carroll is actually back for the Raiders?
You know, my initial reaction is I wrote that I don't think Mark Davis fires him. But as I sat here and reread my note, I thought to myself, yeah, but it might be Tom Brady making that decision, not Mark Davis. And Brady there's no F's given when it comes to Tom Brady. He is like, F your feelings. And so
I think what would be more concerning almost even than the 2-12 is it seems like there's some dysfunction behind the scenes, and that would be something I don't think Brady would be too pleased about.
Yeah, and it's the whole dynamic too with Brady being in the media and being an owner, you know, that's weird and I think creates a different dynamic and so, you know, Pete's the oldest coach in the league and he's energetic and he's trying to get it done. I felt like there was a little bit of a spark with the Greg Olsen promotion, but that faded pretty quickly. Brock Bowers is still doing his stuff. They need offensive linemen, you know, like I need oxygen.
I mean, their offense was bad. It was a historic low on Sunday, only 75 yards. I mean, it doesn't seem like they do anything well, offensively or defensively.
Yeah. You know, Max Crosby still makes headlines on defense, and you just hear about how Ashton Genty has been a disappointment.
The Jacksonville Jaguars hosted the Jets, got the 48-20 victory. And so I want to talk about Isaiah Davis for the Jets. We are not sure how invested they are in Breece Hall long term. Braylon Allen obviously hurt. Davis only 9 carries, but got 58 yards and a touchdown, which is pretty good production against a pretty good run defense for the Jaguars. If they end up rolling with Allen and Davis next year, what do you think of Davis?
He's a pretty athletic back, a little bit less so than what's his name? Brees Hall. So their relative athletic scores, Davis had an 8.9, Hall had a 9.97. Davis is a good size back. He's just slightly bigger than Brees Hall. And Braylon Allen is bigger than both of them, and he's got pretty good speed as well. Do you know when Allen is projected to be back? Is he going to be ready for the start of the season?
Yeah, I thought originally they were looking at him potentially being back during the season, but I think with it being 3-11 dumpster fire. But I don't remember it being that bad of an injury. I just think he's joining a long line of players where they're like, it's not worth trying to bring you back.
Yeah, I like. Would I be so? Here's the thing with the running backs. The last several years, the market hasn't been great, and so
he was expected to miss 8 to 12 weeks. So I guess they said that there is a chance that they'll reactivate him. It was some kind of a knee injury. So,
I mean, will Brees Hall opt for the devil he knows versus the devil he doesn't? I think that Brees Hall is pretty widely regarded. If I remember correctly, he's sitting at right about 900 yards rushing on the year. Good all-around back, got good size. He can be a bell cow. I think, if there's a team out there that's like, look, we're a running back away, I think they go and try to get Brees Hall. But it wouldn't surprise me either if he kind of ends up in the same situation as, like Tony Pollard or Rico Dowdle or Javonte Williams, where he's taking a 1-year deal, trying to, make something happen. If he goes to the right situation, he certainly could make something happen.
For a lot of the season, we felt like the Jaguars were winning with a running game and good defense, and maybe in spite of Trevor Lawrence, but pretty good game on Sunday. 330 yards, 5 touchdowns. Actually remembered Brian Thomas Jr. was on his team, which made my heart a little warmer. Is it possible we've underrated Trevor Lawrence? I mean, they're 10-4, cruising toward a number 3 seed.
I feel like he earned the rating, if I'm being honest, But he's in his 5th year now, 6th year. Got him a new head coach, his 3rd head coach since he's been in the league. And finally, he's got an offensive, quote unquote, wonderkind working there. And so maybe it's kind of starting to, almost a year into the offense, or he's starting to kind of settle in and take heed of all his weapons and execute the offense like Liam Cohen wants. He's QB7 on the year. That's good for fantasy. You'll take that.
Yep.
And, is Travis Hunter going to go back to being a wide receiver, or are they going to roll with Brian Thomas and Jacoby Myers at the top of the pecking order there?
I think, isn't Myers in a contract year?
He could be, but the way he's playing, if I'm Jacksonville, I'm like, yeah, maybe.
Well, it depends on it whether he is an unrestricted free agent in 2026. Yep. So he is in the final year of his deal. So we'll see. The Houston Texans hosted the Arizona Cardinals and got the 40-20 victory. Another coach I have questions about is Jonathan Gannon. The Cardinals do not seem like they're making good progress on offense or defense. Do you think he survives this season?
Here's the challenge. It's setting up to be that classic situation. Team drafts star quarterback, changes coaches, new coach saddled with previous regime's star quarterback. Things don't quite work out the way you thought. Well, are we going to stick with the quarterback or are we going to stick with the head coach and let him get his own star quarterback? And if it doesn't work out next year, you're Cannon Gannon. Listen to me. You're Cannon Gannon. And now you're bringing in another coach that's, guess what, saddled with the previous regime's quarterback choice. I think there's a pretty good chance they give him an opportunity. You know, you can look at the injuries to Murray, to Harrison, to Connor, and kind of make the case that, you know, we never really were at full strength all year. But, you know, sometimes teams are like, you know, we get that, but, you know, based on what you have, you probably should have done a little bit better. I could see it going either way. Right now, I lean towards him coming back. I lean towards them moving Kyler Murray, keeping Brissett to mentor a new quarterback.
I think what is more concerning to me than the offensive woes, which I think you're right could be explained, and some of that is their defense seems kind of worse. So, and that's supposed to be his specialty. So I guess we'll see how that all shakes out. Meanwhile, for the Texans, we thought it was going to be a good game for Woody Marks, but he got injured and came out. So Jawar Jordan, come on down. 15 carries, 101 yards. They've added him to the active roster. I'm not thinking we're going to see Chubb this week. Mark's still a little banged up. So what do we think of Jordan?
He's a guy who landed in a good spot and made the most of his opportunity. He's 26 years old and just played in his first NFL game. So that tells you anything. 5'10", 186, was pushing 4.6 when he ran his 40 at the combine, has poor lateral movement. He doesn't have a lot of things going for him. Sometimes you're just in the right place at the right time and things fall your way. He's been on the team, so if Marks is out, they'll roll with Jordan and probably Ogunbowale. I'm not sure who. I don't see any other without looking at their depth chart. I don't know who their third would be. So do I like him? You know, we're in the playoffs, and in most leagues you can't trade except for, you know, dynasty leagues or whatnot. I don't think there's a lot of there. He's not the next Arian Foster.
Next up, the Denver Broncos hosted the Green Bay Packers and got the 34-26 victory. It was also a big loss for the Packers on the field. Micah Parsons tearing his ACL. What do you think that's going to mean to them as a contender going forward?
Well, in 2024, I think it was, they spent a first-round pick on Lucas Van Ness out of Iowa to play just that spot. Well, now it's time for Lucas Van Ness to step up. And while I don't think that Van Ness is as good as Micah Parsons, he's the guy that's going to have to step into that role and make it happen at that defensive end / outside linebacker position. He's a talented player. And we may see a little more onus on the offense scoring, having to lead the way, as opposed to the offense playing it conservatively and letting Mike in the defense kind of do their thing on defense.
Meanwhile, for the Broncos, I mentioned earlier, winning because of or in spite of the offense. I actually thought this was the most complete game I've seen from the Broncos offense. Knicks looked good going down the field. They were getting some good run. What do you think of this offense against a pretty good Packers team?
I would have liked to have maybe seen a little better production out of Harvey on the ground, but he was serviceable, 65 yards and a touchdown.
He got injured in the third quarter. So
Yeah, he still had 19 carries, so would have liked to have seen that go up a little bit. They weren't super. They didn't get much out of the tight end position with Ingram, but my guy Cortland Sutton, 113 yards and a touchdown. I love him. Troy Franklin. It's wild to me that little Jordan Humphrey's outperforming Marvin Mims, but
find somebody who loves you as much as Sean Payton loves little Jordan Humphrey. I don't know. The Detroit Lions went to Los Angeles to face the Rams. This one was a shootout, but the Rams getting the 41-34 victory. Dennis, the Lions offense seems like it's continuing to put up points, but they are having trouble stopping anyone. Will they be able to fix this defense in time to maybe get into the playoffs?
I fear not. They need to. So they lost both coordinators coming into this year, and Campbell has taken play calling back from the offensive coordinator. And it's just a situation where I think there's been a lot of growing pains, losing Laporta. They really didn't have an answer behind him that's much more than a blocker and catch and fall down guy, which has been great because it has allowed Jared Goff to figure out, hey, I can use both Amon-Ra St. Brown and Jameson Williams in the same game, though it didn't help Gibbs' productivity this week. It was just a down week. It was a terrible week if you roster Jahmyr Gibbs and we're counting on him. It was a bad week for it to be a playoff week. I think the defense, they need to be in a position where they have to make one stop and let the offense win it at the end. I think if you're playing a team as good as the Rams from here on out, they risk losing each of those games because the defense can be had.
Speaking of the Rams, now 11-3, they clinched a playoff spot. They are currently the number 1 seed in the NFC. Are they the best team in the NFC?
They're very well rounded. They've got a powerful offense, number 2 overall offense in the league, the number 2 passing offense, number 9 rush offense. Blake Corum has added some pop to the running game, but heck, Kyron Williams even averaged over 5 yards a carry and put it in the end zone twice this week. Their Puka Nacua is starting to destroy people again. Have you heard word? Is Adams okay? Is he?
He's not practicing. They refuse to rule him out, but I don't think he's going to play on Thursday. We'll have to see when we get there.
So then it becomes, then it feels more like they lean on Parkinson a little bit and then piece it together.
Isn't a bad way to lead. I picked up Parkinson and put him in at tight end because I didn't like my other options, and I have to say I ain't mad at it.
I had a league where we start 2 tight ends, and my 2 tight ends were Parkinson and Cole Kmet. And about the last half an hour before kickoff, I was trying to swing a deal. I was trying to get Dallas Goedert. I was trying to get Hunter Henry. Tried to get Juwan Johnson. I just felt like I needed to I was going to bench Parkinson. And I just finally said, screw it, and didn't. And I rolled with it. I ended up winning the game, which was great. I went into last night, I was down by 22 points. And I had 1 IDP left going, and he got 26. And I pulled out a victory. It's the scoring is a little bit boosted for IDPs to make him a little more on par with offense, which is why I scored 26 points. But no, I think Parkinson is I guess I'd like a little more consistency out of him. And if Adams and Nacua are both healthy and the running game is going well, sometimes we lose that consistency out of Parkinson. But if he's going to be out, he being Adams, it bodes well for Colby Parkinson.
Next up, the Carolina Panthers went to New Orleans with a chance to win and take over first place, and naturally they lost 20-17. Worst game of the season for Ted McMillan. They We're kind of middling on the ground. What do we make of this Panthers team?
So it's come out that Rico Dowdle is not their preferred passing down option. So, well, Dowdle, when Hubbard was a little banged up, Dowdle seemed to be eaten, and it was fantastic. Now it feels like they've become this running back, this receiving back kind of combo. And then if one of them gets the hot hand, they're going to ride that. And that's scary. I still believe in Tet McMillan. You know, JSN had a stinker of a week a couple of weeks ago. You're going to see that, especially as we go through the growing pains with Bryce Young. You know, he's I don't have Young's numbers up, but he is
24, 163 yards and a touchdown, no interceptions, 1 sack, 7 carries for 49 yards.
I was looking more for like a QB what?
Oh, I don't know.
And I think if Young can settle in, they have, you know, Xavier Legette has come on.
He's QB 20.
So, you know, he's a middling QB too. So he's startable in super flex. It comes down to, if I'm playing Carolina Panthers, Dowdle and McMillan are the two, probably McMillan first, Dowdle second. But even Xavier Legette is finally starting to round into shape and give them a weapon. Jalen Coker had a touchdown pass. So they don't have a high-powered enough passing offense to believe in anybody consistently outside of Tet McMillan. And there's always that opportunity in the run game that Chuba Hubbard breaks one, and all of a sudden we don't see Rico Dowdle for 2.5 quarters, and because Hubbard's breaking off. So, but I mean, that could happen with any team. And so you got to kind of roll with it. And you know what the old folks say, you got to dance with who brung you.
Meanwhile, for the Saints, it feels like Tyler Shook is showing some growth, some improvement, and the Saints have been more competitive. What do you make of him?
I think that he has shown some promise. It'll be interesting to see if it's enough given where they're drafting, but we're also starting to see some of the quarterbacks that were able to come out this year are going back to college. So
he's quarterback 14 since week 9 when he took over.
Yeah, and QB 12 since week 10. So that first week he wasn't good. He only had like 5 points and change, I think.
10.2. That's week 9.
So, you know, he's shown a little bit of mobility. He is making the right decisions. It'll come down to whether or not Kellen Moore decides, hey, I'm up here at pick number 1, 2, or 3, and I can get Fernando Mendoza. Am I going to do that? Or I can get Dante Moore. Would I rather have Dante Moore?
They won't be that high though anymore. They're 4-10. They've actually played, and don't look now, but week 16 they are going to be favored at home. They're playing the Jets, so they're doing. Shook is quarterback 8 the last 3 weeks, ahead of Dak Prescott, Joe Burrow, Patrick Mahomes, Baker Mayfield, CJ Stroud, Caleb Williams, Lamar Jackson, Kirk Cousins, Jalen Hurts. He's, you know, Kellen Moore might be the real quarterback whisperer. I part of me wonders if that's what's really wrong with Philadelphia, because they weren't incredible in 23, then they were pretty unstoppable last year, and then he looked pretty mediocre this year. Difference would be Kellen Moore, who we saw do some wonderful things. I wouldn't be surprised if they try to go other directions and run him out there for another year, because it was a 2nd round pick. He was a fairly high pick, and they're still, I think the other handicap for New Orleans is they're still in some salary cap purgatory and are going to be for at least one more year.
And we say it all the time, build from the inside out, then add that quarterback. So you've got 5 years with an elite quarterback.
He might
And
have the Davis Mills career arc where he starts for a couple of years and doesn't look half bad and then transitions into being a high-end backup. I mean, that wouldn't be the worst, it's because he was an older pick too, isn't he? Like 27 or 28. So.
yeah, 26 maybe, somewhere in there.
The San Francisco 49ers hosted the Tennessee Titans, got the 37-24 victory. Dennis, the Titans are 2-12. There's been some talk recently that if they get the number 1 overall draft pick again, that they should look at taking a quarterback, which I find a little ridiculous since they just took Cam Ward at number 1 overall. If you were the Titans and you got the top pick, would you take a quarterback?
Well, how far do you think the distance is between Cam Ward and Josh Rosen?
I think Cam Ward's been getting better, but I also think the Titans have a lot other problems.
Right. Exactly. And I think Ward is showing improvement. I think the team has several opportunities to get better. He had 170 yards and 2 touchdowns. Tony Pollard rushed for 104 yards this week. He's developing some chemistry with Gunnar Helm. Jamira Dike is playing well. Io Manor was essentially shut out, only 1 target, 1 catch. I don't expect to see Calvin Ridley back. Maybe they decide to bring him back, but they need an alpha receiver. They need to improve their O-line. And getting Ward into the offseason, let him continue to work the program and develop. I wouldn't be inclined. Like, if I'm the Titans and I've got the first pick, like, give me all the draft picks to move back. Somebody come and get this.
I think the only reason this comes up is because they're going to change coaches. But to me, you spent 2 high draft picks the last 2 years on quarterbacks, because Levis went at the top of the 2nd round.
Yep.
And then they went and got Ward. You've got other problems, like massive other problems. I'm with you. I would try to trade back. Maybe they can get the same kind of deal that Chicago got, when they had Fields and they had number 1, they ended up getting a franchise receiver and a couple of years of 1st-round draft picks from a Carolina team that wasn't very good. I think arguably that's what helped Chicago do a turnaround. I don't know if they can find a team that's as dumb as Carolina. But that'd be nice. Meanwhile, the 49ers now 10-4. I think they've flown under the radar because they've just kind of steadily plugged along, and they're actually 3rd place in their own division, which kind of speaks to how good their division is. But what do we think of the 49ers?
I mean, they're an efficient offense as far as executing what they do. McCaffrey's getting volume while not being great on the ground when it comes to efficiency. He's typically getting 7, 8, 9 targets in the passing game. He only had 1 target this week, but Ricky Pearsall popped off for 6 catches and 96 yards. Kittle had 8 out of 9 for 88 yards and a touchdown. Juwan Jennings grabbed 2 touchdown passes, if not being super productive on catches and yardage. So they've got a lot of weapons and they've got a lot of players that they can use. If their O-line can continue to stay healthy, they can make a run. Shanahan is a pretty good coach. And with McCaffrey and Brian Robinson in the backfield and Brock Purdy, Purdy is just one of those guys that probably isn't elite in any phase of the game except processing. He makes the right decision quickly. He's got good mobility, not great. He isn't going to win a game with his legs typically. He isn't going to throw the ball 80 yards down the field, but he's going to be accurate and he's got a strong enough arm. So they can. What would this team look like if they had Brandon Ayuk?
We will never know. The Indianapolis Colts went to Seattle. The Seahawks held on for the 18-16 victory, but 44-year-old Phillip Rivers didn't look like a guy who's been retired for 5 years. It wasn't incredible, but 18 to 27, 120 yards, a touchdown, had a late interception when they were trying to see if they could come back. You know, I thought he was going to struggle and maybe get killed back there. I was kind of impressed with how he stepped up. What did you think?
So you remember it was about 3 years ago, Najee Harris had something like 70 receptions in Pittsburgh, which was Ben Roethlisberger's last year. Amir Abdullah had 5 targets in this game. Jonathan Taylor had 4. Out of the 27 targets, a third of them went to running backs, which kind of accounts for why on 27 passes, he only threw for 120 yards. I think Rivers performed admirably. I'm buying into the joke that, the NFL pays your health insurance for the first 5 years you're retired. Well, his 5 years was up. He's got 10 kids. He needed to come back to get 5 more years of health insurance.
We'll see. I think he's going to start the rest of the season.
I think so.
I didn't think he was going to survive. So I'm not saying it was a great game, but
He's not shell-shocked Dennis Quaid in Any Given Sunday.
Yeah. Meanwhile, for an 11-3 team, the Seahawks offense feels like a dumpster fire for fantasy outside of JSN. What are we doing with them if we're in the playoffs?
Man, if they could just settle on a running back and give that running back volume, wouldn't it be great?
Both those running backs sucked, though.
But neither one of them has a chance to really get going and get a feel. It's like I think both of them put so much pressure on themselves to make stuff happen because they know, well, I'm going to get 3 carries and then I'm not playing for a series. JSN's who you're going to rely on. Rashid Shaheed's starting to come up. AJ Barner's the guy you want at the tight end position, but he's not going to get you a ton of points. So, maybe he gets a touchdown, but hell, nobody got you a touchdown last week.
Josh Myers is the one you want for fantasy.
Yeah. Cooper Kupp was probably the most productive he'd been in several weeks. This week with 7 targets, 5 catches, and 46 yards. So
Sunday Night Football saw the Vikings go to Dallas. They got a 34-26 victory. Second consecutive pretty okay game for J.J. McCarthy. 15-24, 250 yards passing, 2 TDs, 1 INT. Also had 15 yards on the ground and a rushing TD. Could he end up being the guy for them after all?
Yeah, he can. I don't see why not. They drafted him in the first round. Their plan is to give him every opportunity to be the guy. And it's been up and down because of injuries. And if he can get healthy and stay healthy and get some reps under his belt, I don't think he's going to be a guy you want to throw the ball 40 times a game. But if he can get by with 25 pass attempts, 4 to 8 rush attempts, because he does have that mobility, I think that makes him serviceable for fantasy. It may hamper the receivers, especially if he's spreading it around, 6 different receivers on 24 passes. Jefferson only caught 2 of 8. So it makes it's kind of like in Green Bay, Jordan Love is the guy you want to roster in that passing offense, especially with Tucker Kraft out. I think if this Vikings offense keeps progressing like it is, we're going to be saying the same thing. J.J. McCarthy's the guy you want to roster in that passing offense.
Meanwhile, for the Cowboys, another solid game for Javonte Williams. He's running back 8 on the season, signed a 1-year deal, seems to have really popped back and delivered what we thought he might have coming in the draft. Do you think he stays with the Cowboys long term? Do you think he ends up Rico Dowdling it and moving on? What do you think happens with Javonte Williams?
I think the Cowboys could do a heck of a lot worse than re-signing Javonte Williams. I think the way their running back room is constructed right now with Malik Davis backing him up. Davis is a smaller back, a little bit more raw speed. They have, is it Khalil Mullings?
No, they have Jadon Blue.
Oh, yeah, they have him. I think
And
they've
Phil
got a
Maffa.
bigger. Yeah, Phil Maffa. So they've got like 3 or 4 backs that they can piece together, serviceable backups that supplement the special teams. Will Williams be better if he's platooned? Maybe, but I think he's shown the ability to handle 15 to 20 opportunities a game and be productive with it. And if I feel like they signed him to a 2-year deal that's front loaded. So if he falls off a cliff next year, they can get out of it with minimal impact. That might be the best way to go for both of them.
Yeah, I mean, he's already at 1,113 yards, 10 touchdowns. Been pretty impressive. He is a decent pass catcher, too. This is kind of what I always thought he potentially could be in Denver. Already 33 receptions on the year, too, a couple passing touchdowns. I would love to see him stay in Dallas. I think that would be a good fit for both of them, and probably not super expensive, but we'll see. Dallas, hard to figure. The Pittsburgh Steelers hosted the Miami Dolphins Monday night, got the 28-15 win. It wasn't really that close. The Dolphins were up 3-0 till almost the end of the half. Then the Steelers scored 28 unanswered from the end of the second quarter through the third quarter. The Dolphins got a couple pity touchdowns in the fourth quarter that really propped up Tua's stats, but he only had 65 passing yards and an interception through 3 quarters. Mike McDaniel was very non-committal. The Dolphins have been officially eliminated from the playoffs. He was very non-committal about whether Tua was going to start moving forward. They only have Zach Wilson or Brady. Wait, not Brady.
Quinn Ewers.
Quinn Ewers. I knew it was a Quinn in there somewhere. Do you think they'll really sit Tua?
If I'm Mike McDaniel and I'm out of the playoffs, I think I've got to see what I have. I'm going to sit down with management and go, we know what Tua is, and is it going to be, how beneficial is it for us to, he's under contract, so it isn't like,
yeah, and a contract that they can't get rid of.
Yeah, it isn't like if they sit him that they're going to be like, he's going to be like, oh, I'm going home. Yeah, I want out. They'll just be like, hey, man, we're out of it. We want to take a look. Is there something left with Zach Wilson? Can he do something? Is there anything there with Quinn Ewers, who was the last QB drafted in the draft, but who had a good enough pedigree that Ohio State and Texas both wanted him? So, they've got 3 games left. Take a look at, even if you don't take a look at Wilson, take a look at Ewers. See what he can give you. That may not make guys like Waddle or Waller happy, or Achane, because they want to play with the best chance to win. But at some point you look at the thing, you gotta say, well, what are we doing developmentally? What are our opportunities here?
Well, and they've kind of been hiding Tua the last few weeks anyway. Meanwhile, on the other side, Aaron Rodgers, it's been an up and down season. Quarterback 18 now through it all. He's getting older. He's gotten beaten up. Do you think this is his last season? If you were holding him in Dynasty, how are you playing this?
If I'm holding him in Dynasty, I'm just going to keep holding him until he's officially gone. I'm obviously going to look for opportunities to make him my 3rd or 4th quarterback as opposed to my 1st or 2nd quarterback. I think that the Steelers are playing well enough and trending in the right direction that he decides he wants to give it another shot. You know, they brought in MVS. Alan Lazard was just released today. They can go get him. You know, that'll definitely make Rodgers happy. So they've got the dynamic in Pittsburgh is unique because they've got a very, very tenured coach that does things a certain way. And if they mess around, have a winning record, and make the playoffs again, it takes a lot of guts to look in the mirror and say, we're going to tear it all down because we've been in the middle of the pack, you know, winning our division and losing a playoff game, maybe winning a playoff game before we lose for 15 years in a row now, it seems. Let's rebuild it. And Tomlin may say, I don't have the stomach for that. Rodgers may say he doesn't have the stomach for that. Cam Hayward, maybe like I'm out too. It's TJ Watt, even though he's just signed an extension. You know, they've got a lot of veterans that may just be like, I'm good. Let's go. But players love Mike Tomlin.
Yeah.
He's no bullshit guy. You know exactly where you stand. He isn't going to dog shit talk you in the media. He's going to tell you to your face.
I mean, it does seem like it's going to be interesting. It does seem like they have they control their own destiny for making the playoffs. So that'll do it for us this week. A wrap on week 15. Thursday, we will look at the week 16 games. An interesting slate. This is where it starts to get challenging for you to have a personal life with your family on the weekends because there will be games on Saturday, not to mention college football playoff games on Saturday. So there's basically games every day. So you're going to have to pick and choose probably, but we'll be back previewing all that. If you need something to fill your time between now and then, what can the people do?
They can cruise on over to your favorite podcast platform, hit that search button, type in the Fantasy Football Roundtable podcast, give us a subscribe, give us a like. Listen to our vast back catalog and see just how far we've come.
Even from the beginning of the season and some of our predictions. That'll do it for us today. Hope you guys have a wonderful rest of your week. We'll see you on Thursday.